Elena Vasquez thought cleaning toilets for pennies was the worst her life could get, until a corrupt cop cornered her in a dark alley and made threats that would shatter everything she'd built. What she didn't know was that the most feared man in the city had been watching her every move, and her desperate cry for help would pull her into a world where protection comes with a price she never imagined paying. In one night, a single pressed button would transform a broken maid into the obsession of a dangerous mafia boss. But the enemies circling them both have plans that will test whether love can survive when bullets start flying. The man who saved her life is about to risk everything to keep her. But Elena is about to discover that sometimes the most dangerous place to be is in the arms of someone who kills for love. Subscribe and tell me in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between safety and freedom? Because Elena's choice is about to change everything. Elena's hands ached as she wrung out the mop for the last time. The marble floors of the Romano mansion gleamed under the chandelier light. She was tired, bone-deep tired. "You finished early tonight," Mrs. Russo said from the kitchen doorway. Her voice was kind. "I need to pick up Lila." Elena dried her hands on the towel. Her back protested as she straightened. "How is she doing?" Elena's chest tightened. "The same. She still won't talk." Mrs. Russo's face softened. "Time heals, mija. You'll see." Elena wanted to believe that. She gathered her cleaning supplies and headed for the service exit. The Romano mansion was quiet tonight. Mr. Romano was away on business. She preferred it that way. The walk to Mrs. Russo's apartment took 15 minutes. Elena's feet hurt in her worn shoes. She climbed the 3 flights of stairs and knocked. "Tia Elena!" Lila launched herself into Elena's arms. Elena's heart squeezed. Lila only spoke to her now. To everyone else, she was silent. "How was she today?" Elena asked Mrs. Russo. "Good. She drew pictures. Ate her lunch." Mrs. Russo handed Elena Lila's backpack. "You look tired, mija." "I'm fine." Elena wasn't fine. She was drowning. Back in their tiny apartment, Elena watched Lila color at the kitchen table. The bills sat in a stack on the counter, past due, all of them. Elena counted the cash in her purse. $43. Rent was due in 5 days. "Tia Elena?" Lila's voice was small. "Yes, baby? Are we in trouble?" Elena's throat closed. "No, sweetheart. Everything is fine." Lila's dark eyes searched Elena's face. She was too smart, too observant. After Lila fell asleep, Elena stared at the ceiling. She had to do something. Mrs. Russo had mentioned the bar on 5th Street needed help. Just for tonight. Just to get enough for rent. Elena called Mrs. Russo. "Can you watch Lila tonight? I need to work." "Of course. Bring her over." Elena felt sick as she carried sleeping Lila to Mrs. Russo's apartment. She kissed her niece's forehead and whispered a prayer. The rusty anchor smelled like stale beer and cigarettes. Elena tied her apron and tried to blend into the background. The manager was a sweaty man named Tony. "Just clear tables and bring drinks," he said. "Tips are yours." The bar was crowded. Men in work clothes hunched over their beers. Elena moved between tables, collecting empty bottles and dodging wandering hands. "Hey, sweetheart," a man called out. His breath reeked of alcohol. "Bring me another beer." "Coming right up." Elena's voice was steady. She caught fragments of conversations. Something about Romano territory, about shipments and protection money. Elena's stomach churned. She knew that name. A uniformed police officer sat at the end of the bar. He watched Elena work. His stare made her skin crawl. "You're new," he said when she passed his table. "Yes, sir." Elena didn't meet his eyes. "I'm Marco. I keep an eye on this neighborhood." His voice was smooth, too smooth. Elena nodded and hurried away. Something about him felt wrong. The night dragged on. Elena's tips accumulated slowly. Every dollar mattered. She could feel Marco's eyes following her movements. At closing time, Elena helped stack chairs. Her legs shook with exhaustion. The tips barely covered what she needed. "Thanks for the help," Tony said. "Come back next week if you want." Elena nodded. She gathered her purse and headed for the back exit. The alley was dark and narrow. Footsteps echoed behind her. Elena's pulse spiked. "Hold up there, sweetheart." Elena turned. Marco stood in the doorway, blocking the light. "I need to get home," she said. "We should talk first." Marco stepped into the alley. "About your situation." "What situation?" "You work for the Romanos. That makes you interesting." Marco's hand rested on his belt, near his gun. Elena felt fear crawl up her spine. "I just clean houses." "Sure you do." Marco moved closer. "But I bet you see things, hear things." "I don't know what you mean." "Come on, Elena. That is your name, right?" Marco's smile was cold. "You could help me out. Share what you learn." "I need to go." Elena backed toward the far end of the alley. "I don't think so." Marco grabbed her arm. His fingers dug into her flesh. "You owe me a favor." "I don't owe you anything." Elena tried to pull away. Marco's grip tightened. "You want to keep your job? Keep that little girl safe?" Elena's blood turned to ice. "Leave her out of this." "That depends on you." Marco's voice dropped to a whisper. "Be smart, sweetheart. Work with me." Elena's mind raced. She had to get away. She twisted hard and broke free. Marco lunged for her. Elena stumbled backward, her heart hammering. Suddenly, headlights swept across the alley. A black sedan idled at the entrance. The passenger door opened. "Let her go." The voice was quiet, deadly calm. Elena's breath caught. She knew that voice. Dante Romano stepped into the light. His presence filled the narrow space. Even in the shadows, his power was unmistakable. Marco's hand dropped from Elena's arm. "Mr. Romano, I know exactly what you were doing." Dante's eyes never left Marco's face. "Walk away. Now." Marco's jaw worked. He glanced between Dante and Elena. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is." Dante's voice was silk over steel. Marco backed toward the street. "You can't protect everyone, Romano." Dante said nothing. He waited until Marco disappeared around the corner. Elena pressed herself against the brick wall. Her whole body shook. "Are you hurt?" Dante asked. "No." Elena's voice cracked. Dante moved closer. In the dim light, his face was all sharp angles and shadows. "He won't bother you again." "You don't know that. I know exactly that." Dante's eyes found hers. "Let me drive you home." Elena shook her head. "I can walk." It wasn't a request. Elena's chin lifted. "I don't need your help." Something shifted in Dante's expression, almost like respect. "Maybe not, but you're getting it anyway." Elena clutched her torn coat around her shoulders. Her pride warred with her fear. Pride won. "Thank you, but no." She straightened her spine. "I can take care of myself." Dante studied her face. "I can see that." Elena limped toward the street. Each step hurt. She felt Dante watching her. "Gio," Dante called softly. A man emerged from the shadows. Tall, lean, dangerous. "Boss?" "Follow her. Make sure she gets home safely." Elena's shoulders tensed. She didn't look back. Elena's apartment felt like a sanctuary. She locked the deadbolt and slumped against the door. Her hands still shook. Mrs. Russo met her at the top of the stairs. "How did it go?" "Fine." Elena forced a smile. "Thank you for watching Lila." "Any time, mija." Mrs. Russo's eyes searched Elena's face. "You look pale." "Just tired." Elena carried sleeping Lila back to their apartment. She tucked her niece into bed and kissed her forehead. In the bathroom mirror, Elena saw finger-shaped bruises on her arm. Marco's grip had been strong. She pulled her sleeves down to hide the marks. Sleep wouldn't come. Elena stared at the ceiling and replayed the night. Marco's threats, Dante's intervention, the way his voice had cut through her fear. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Elena froze. Who would visit this late? She crept to the door and peered through the peephole. The hallway was empty. Elena opened the door slowly. A small box sat on the doormat. Plain brown cardboard. No return address. Elena brought the box inside and locked the door. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside was a small device, like a garage door opener, but sleeker. More expensive, a note lay beneath it. The handwriting was masculine, precise. For your safety. Use it. No signature. But Elena knew who had sent it. Dante Romano. Elena's breath caught. She turned the device over in her hands. It was warm, heavy, real. Part of her wanted to throw it away, to pretend tonight had never happened. To go back to her simple life of cleaning and worrying and barely surviving. But Marco's face flashed in her mind. His threats about Lila. Elena closed the box. She hid it in the kitchen drawer beneath the dish towels. Tomorrow she would return it. She would tell Dante Romano she didn't need his protection. But tonight, knowing it was there, Elena finally fell asleep. The next morning brought no peace. Elena woke with Marco's words echoing in her head. She made breakfast for Lila and tried to act normal. "Are you sick, Tia Elena?" Lila's voice was worried. "No, baby, just tired." Lila's dark eyes studied Elena's face, too serious for a 7-year-old. At the Romano mansion, Elena went through her usual routine, dusting, mopping, organizing, but her mind kept drifting to the device in her kitchen drawer. She was polishing the silver when footsteps echoed in the hallway. Elena's pulse quickened. Dante Romano appeared in the doorway. In daylight, he was even more imposing, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a perfectly tailored suit. His dark hair was swept back. His eyes were the color of storm clouds. "Miss Vasquez," his voice was formal. "Mr. Romano." Elena didn't look up from the silver. "We need to talk." Elena's hands stilled. "About what? You know about what?" Elena set down the polishing cloth. She turned to face him. "I have something that belongs to you." Dante's eyebrow arched. "Do you?" "The device. I don't need it." "That's where you're wrong." Dante stepped into the room. "Marco Bellini is a problem. He's a police officer. He's a corrupt piece of garbage." Dante's voice hardened. "And he has a grudge against my family." Elena's stomach churned. "What kind of grudge?" "The kind that gets innocent people hurt." "I'm not involved in your business." "You are now." Dante moved closer. "The moment he targeted you?" Elena's chin lifted. "I don't want your charity." "It's not charity. It's common sense." "I can take care of myself." "Can you?" Dante's eyes found hers. "Can you take care of Lila when Marco shows up at her school?" Elena's blood turned cold. "He wouldn't." "He would, and he will." Dante's voice was quiet. "Unless you let me help." Elena felt trapped, cornered. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. I want to give you something." "What?" "Safety." The word hung between them. Elena stared at Dante's face. He looked serious, deadly serious. "Why?" she asked. Something flickered in Dante's eyes. Pain, maybe, or memory. "Because everyone deserves to be safe." Elena's throat tightened. She thought of Lila drawing pictures, of Mrs. Russo's kindness, of the bills on her counter, and the fear that lived in her chest. "I don't understand your world," Elena said. "You don't need to understand it. You just need to trust me." "Trust you." Elena's voice rose. I don't even know you. You know enough. Dante stepped back. Keep the device. Use it if you need help. And if I don't want it, then you're a fool. Dante's voice was blunt, and I don't protect fools. He turned to leave. Elena watched him go, her heart pounding. Mr. Romano? He stopped, looked back. What happens if I use it? I come. His eyes held hers. No matter what, no matter where. And then what? Then you're safe. Dante's voice was quiet, always. He left Elena standing in the silver-polished dining room, her mind spinning with questions she couldn't answer. That afternoon, Elena picked up Lila from school. They walked hand in hand through the neighborhood. Elena's eyes swept every corner, every shadow. You're scared, Lila said. Elena's step faltered. What makes you say that? Your hand is squeezing mine too tight. Elena loosened her grip. Sorry, baby. Is the bad man going to hurt us? Elena's heart stopped. What bad man? The one from your dreams. You said his name last night. Elena knelt down to Lila's level. What name did I say? Marco. Lila's voice was whisper soft. Elena felt sick. You're safe, Lila. I promise. How do you know? Elena touched Lila's cheek. Because I won't let anything happen to you. But even as she said it, Elena wondered if she was strong enough to keep that promise. They were half a block from their apartment when Elena saw him. Marco leaned against a lamppost, smoking a cigarette. He wore civilian clothes, jeans and a leather jacket. But Elena recognized his cold smile. Keep walking, Elena whispered to Lila. Who is that man? Nobody important? But Marco pushed off from the lamppost. He fell into step beside them. Afternoon, Elena. His voice was cheerful, fake. Elena didn't respond. She pulled Lila closer. Cute kid, Marco said. She looks just like her mother. Elena's steps faltered. How do you... I make it my business to know things. Marco's smile widened. Immigration records are fascinating reading. Fear crawled up Elena's spine. What do you want? Same thing I wanted last night. Cooperation. I told you no. And I told you to be smart. Marco's voice dropped. You're here on a work visa, right? Temporary status. Elena's throat closed. Funny how paperwork gets lost sometimes, Marco continued. How documentation disappears. How little girls end up in foster care. You bastard, Elena breathed. Marco chuckled. Now that's not very nice, especially in front of the kid. Lila pressed against Elena's side. Her small hand gripped Elena's coat. Think about it, Marco said. Think about what's best for everyone. He dropped his cigarette and crushed it under his heel. Then he walked away, whistling. Elena stood frozen on the sidewalk. Her mind raced with possibilities, all of them bad. Tia Elena? Lila's voice was small. It's okay, baby. Everything is okay. But Elena felt the lie burning her throat. That night, after Lila fell asleep, Elena sat at her kitchen table. The device lay before her, small and silver and full of promises she didn't understand. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. 24 hours. Think fast. Elena's hand shook as she typed back. Who is this? You know. Who? 24 hours. Elena stared at the screen until it went dark. Then she picked up the device. Her finger hovered over the button. One press. That's all it would take. But what would happen then? What would she be bringing into Lila's life? Elena set the device down. She needed to think, to plan. But deep in her chest, fear whispered that time was running out. The next evening, Elena finished work early. Mrs. Romano had called to say she was taking Lila to the park. Elena decided to meet them there. The playground was busy. Children laughed and ran while parents watched from benches. Elena spotted Mrs. Russo pushing Lila on the swings. How was work? Mrs. Russo asked when Elena approached. Fine. Elena watched Lila pump her legs, trying to swing higher. You still look worried. Elena forced a smile. Just tired. Mrs. Russo's eyes were sharp, too knowing. Mija, if you're in trouble, I'm not in trouble. But even as Elena said it, she saw Marco emerging from behind the restroom building. He wore sunglasses and a baseball cap, trying to look casual. Elena's breath caught. We need to go. What? Why? Please, just trust me. Elena lifted Lila from the swing. Time to go home, baby. But I want to play more, Lila protested. We'll come back tomorrow. Elena herded Mrs. Russo and Lila toward the park exit. She didn't look back, but she felt Marco watching. They made it to Mrs. Russo's apartment building before Elena's composure cracked. Can you keep Lila tonight? Elena asked. Of course, but Elena, I'll explain later. I promise. Elena kissed Lila goodbye and hurried to her own apartment. She needed to think, to plan, to figure out how to protect the only family she had left. But when she reached her door, Elena knew her time was up. The lock was broken. The door hung open. Elena's heart hammered as she stepped inside. Her apartment had been searched, drawers pulled out, cushions thrown aside, papers scattered everywhere. A note lay on her kitchen table. The same masculine handwriting as before. But this wasn't from Dante. Tonight. Pier 17, midnight. Come alone. It was signed with a simple initial. Elena sank into a chair. Her hand shook as she reached for her phone. She scrolled through her contacts, looking for someone to call. Someone who could help. But there was no one. Just her and Lila against the world. Elena's eyes fell on the device, still hidden in the drawer where she'd left it. She pulled it out and held it in her palm. Such a small thing, but Dante's words echoed in her mind, no matter what, no matter where. Elena closed her eyes. She thought of Lila's laughter, of Mrs. Russo's kindness, of the life they'd built together. Then she thought of Marco's threats, of broken locks and scattered papers and children in foster care. Elena's finger found the button. She pressed it. The device beeped once, then silence. Elena stared at it, her heart hammering. What had she done? What would happen now? She didn't have to wait long. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, quick and purposeful. Elena froze as they stopped outside her door. A knock, 3 sharp raps. Miss Vasquez, it's Gio. Elena recognized the voice from the alley, Dante's man. She opened the door slowly. Gio filled the doorway, tall and lean, with watchful eyes. Behind him stood 2 other men she didn't recognize. Where is he? Gio asked. Who? The cop, Marco. Elena's throat tightened. I don't know. He left a note. Gio stepped inside. His eyes swept the destroyed apartment. When? I just got home. Found it this way. Show me the note. Elena handed it over. Gio read it quickly, his face hardening. Pack a bag, he said. What? You're coming with us. Now. Elena backed away. I'm not going anywhere. You press the button. That means you need help. Gio's voice was patient but firm. This is help. I just want him to leave me alone. He won't, not unless we make him. Elena felt trapped. Where's Mr. Romano? On his way, but first we get you somewhere safe. What about Lila? We'll collect her too. Elena's chest tightened. She doesn't know about any of this. She doesn't need to, but she needs to be protected. Elena stared at Gio's face. He looked serious, professional, like someone who knew how to handle dangerous situations. 5 minutes, Gio said. Pack what you need. Elena moved through her apartment like a sleepwalker. Clothes for her and Lila, toiletries. The few photographs she treasured. Everything else felt meaningless now. Gio waited by the door, speaking quietly into his phone. Elena caught fragments. Safe house. Full security. Boss is en route. When Elena emerged with her bag, Gio nodded approvingly. Let's get your niece. The drive to Mrs. Russo's building was tense. Elena sat in the back seat between two silent men. Gio rode shotgun, his eyes constantly scanning the streets. What do I tell Mrs. Russo? Elena asked. The truth, Gio said, that you're in danger and we're helping. She'll never believe that. She'll believe it when she sees us. Mrs. Russo's face went pale when she opened her door. 3 large men in expensive suits stood in her hallway. Elena? Mrs. Russo's voice shook. It's okay, Elena said quickly. These are friends. We need to take Lila somewhere safe. Safe from what? From a bad man who wants to hurt us. Mrs. Russo's eyes moved between Elena and the men. Are you in trouble with the law? No, Gio said quietly. She's in trouble with someone who pretends to be the law. Understanding flickered in Mrs. Russo's eyes. She'd lived in this neighborhood long enough to know the difference. How long? She asked. We don't know, Elena said. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be careful. Mrs. Russo squeezed Elena's hand. I'll pray for you both. Lila was sleepy and confused as Elena bundled her into a coat. Where are we going, Tia Elena? On a little trip, baby. Like a vacation? Elena's throat closed. Something like that. The car was warm and quiet. Lila curled up against Elena's side and dozed. Elena stared out the window as familiar streets gave way to unfamiliar ones. They were leaving the city, heading into the hills where rich people lived behind high gates and security cameras. Where are you taking us? Elena asked. Somewhere Marco can't reach you, Gio said. 20 minutes later, they turned through massive iron gates. A long driveway wound through manicured gardens. At the end sat a house that looked more like a palace, the Romano mansion. Elena's breath caught. She'd cleaned this house for months, but always through the service entrance. She'd never seen it from the front. It's beautiful, Lila whispered, suddenly awake. Yes, it is, Elena said, but beauty didn't make her feel safer. If anything, it made her more aware of how far she was from her own world. The car stopped at the front entrance. Gio helped Elena and Lila out. More men appeared from the shadows. Security guards, Elena realized, armed and alert. This way, Gio said. Inside the mansion was even more impressive. Marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Oil paintings and gold frames lined the walls. Everything spoke of wealth and power. A woman appeared at the top of the grand staircase. Elena recognized her as Mrs. Romano's personal housekeeper. Maria something. Mrs. Romano is waiting for you in the blue sitting room, Maria said. Elena's stomach lurched. Mrs. Romano is here? She came home early, Gio explained. Don't worry, she knows the situation. Elena felt sick. Her employer knowing about her troubles felt like the ultimate humiliation. The blue sitting room was elegant and intimidating. Mrs. Romano sat on a velvet sofa, her silver hair perfectly styled. She was in her 60s, but carried herself like royalty. Elena, Mrs. Romano said warmly, please sit. Elena perched on the edge of a chair, holding Lila close. Mrs. Romano, I'm sorry about this. I never meant... You have nothing to apologize for. Mrs. Romano's voice was firm. You're here because my son wants to protect you. That's enough for me. Your son? Elena felt stupid the moment she said it. Of course Dante was Mrs. Romano's son. She'd just never made the connection. Dante should be here soon, Mrs. Romano continued. In the meantime, Maria will show you to your rooms. Rooms? Elena's voice cracked. You'll stay here until the threat is resolved. Mrs. Romano's tone brooked no argument. Both of you. Lila tugged on Elena's sleeve. Is this where you work, Tia Elena? Yes, baby. It's like a castle. Mrs. Romano smiled at that. Would you like some hot chocolate while we wait for the grown-ups to talk? Lila nodded shyly. Mrs. Romano rang a small bell, and Maria appeared instantly. Hot chocolate for our young guest, Mrs. Romano said, and perhaps some cookies? As Maria led Lila away, Mrs. Romano turned to Elena. How long has this been going on? 2 days, since the night at the bar. And you didn't think to ask for help sooner? Elena's cheeks burned. I thought I could handle it myself. Pride is a luxury you can't afford with a child to protect. The words stung because they were true. Elena looked down at her hands. I don't understand why he's helping me. Because that's who he is. Mrs. Romano's voice softened. My son has seen too much darkness. When he finds something worth protecting, he doesn't let go. But I'm nobody, just a maid. You're not nobody to him. Before Elena could ask what that meant, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Heavy and deliberate. Dante appeared in the doorway. He still wore his suit from earlier, but his tie was loose. His hair looked like he'd been running his hands through it. Mama, he said, kissing Mrs. Romano's cheek. Dante. Mrs. Romano stood gracefully. I'll leave you two to talk. She swept from the room, leaving Elena alone with the most dangerous man she'd ever met. Dante sat across from her. In the lamplight, his face looked carved from stone. Tell me everything. Elena's voice shook as she recounted Marco's visits, his threats about Lila, the break-in, the note demanding she meet him at the pier. Dante listened without interrupting. His expression grew darker with each detail. He's escalating, Dante said when she finished. What does that mean? It means he's desperate. Desperate men do stupid things. Elena felt fear crawl up her spine. What kind of stupid things? The kind that get people hurt. Dante leaned forward. You can't go to that pier tonight. I wasn't planning to. Good, because I'm going instead. Elena's breath caught. You can't. It's a trap. I'm counting on it. He's a police officer. If something happens to him, nothing will happen to him that he doesn't deserve. The coldness in Dante's voice made Elena shiver. I don't want anyone getting hurt because of me. This isn't because of you. It's because of what you represent. What do I represent? A way to get to me. Dante's eyes found hers. Marco's family owes mine a debt, a big one. He thinks if he can hurt someone under my protection, he'll have leverage. Elena felt the blood drain from her face. So, this is about you? Yes. And I'm just caught in the middle. Yes. At least he was honest. Elena appreciated that, even as it terrified her. What happens now? She asked. Now you stay here, you and Lila, until this is resolved. For how long? However long it takes. Elena stood abruptly. I can't just hide here forever. You can and you will. Dante's voice was steel. This isn't a negotiation. You can't make me stay. Watch me. Elena felt panic rise in her chest. This isn't what I wanted when I pressed that button. What did you want? I wanted the threats to stop. I wanted my life back. Your old life is gone, Dante said bluntly. The moment Marco targeted you, it was over. Elena felt tears burn her eyes. So, what am I supposed to do? Live here like a prisoner? You're not a prisoner. You're protected. What's the difference? Dante stood and moved to the window. He looked out at the gardens, his hands clasped behind his back. A prisoner wants to leave. You should want to stay. Why? Because out there you're vulnerable. In here you're safe. Elena stared at his broad shoulders. And you think safety is worth giving up freedom? I think dead people don't have freedom. The words hung in the air between them. Elena felt their weight settle in her chest. I need to check on Lila, she said finally. Dante nodded without turning around. Maria will show you to your rooms. Elena started toward the door, then stopped. Mr. Romano? Dante. What? Call me Dante. Elena's heart skipped. Dante, why are you really doing this? He turned then, and Elena saw something raw in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or memory. Because I know what it's like to lose someone you can't protect. Before Elena could respond, he was gone. She stood alone in the blue sitting room, his words echoing in her mind. Maria led Elena through hallways lined with family portraits. Elena tried not to stare, but she caught glimpses of Dante as a boy, as a young man. In some photos, he stood with a beautiful woman and a small child. This wing is private, Maria explained. You and Lila will have adjoining rooms. The rooms were beautiful, too beautiful for someone like Elena. The bed was bigger than her entire bedroom at home. The bathroom had marble counters and gold fixtures. Elena found Lila in the adjoining room, sitting on the floor with a coloring book. She looked tiny in the enormous space. Do you like it here, baby? Elena asked. Lila shrugged. It's pretty, but I miss our apartment. Elena's chest tightened. I know. We'll go home soon. Promise. Elena wanted to promise, but Dante's words echoed in her mind. Your old life is gone. I hope so, Elena said instead. That night, Elena lay awake staring at the ceiling. The bed was comfortable, but she couldn't relax. Every sound made her tense. Every shadow seemed threatening. Around midnight, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, male. She slipped out of bed and crept to the door. Through the keyhole, she saw Dante walking toward the stairs. He wore dark clothes and moved like a predator. Going to meet Marco, Elena realized. Her stomach churned. What if something happened to him? What if Marco had backup? What if this was all a trap? Elena pressed her forehead against the cool door. She shouldn't care what happened to Dante Romano. He was dangerous, probably a criminal, definitely not someone she should worry about. But she did worry. The thought of him walking into danger because of her made her sick. Hours passed. Elena dozed fitfully, waking at every sound. Finally, near dawn, she heard the footsteps return, slower this time, heavier. Elena pressed her ear to the door. She heard Dante's voice, low and tired. Someone else responded. Gio, maybe. Then silence. Elena fell asleep as the sun was rising. When she woke, Lila was gone. Panic shot through Elena's chest. She threw on a robe and ran to the adjoining room. Empty. Lila? Elena called. No answer. Elena ran into the hallway. Lila! She's in the kitchen. Elena spun around. Dante stood at the far end of the hallway. He looked exhausted. There was blood on his knuckles. Is she okay? Elena asked. She's fine, making pancakes with Mrs. Russo. Mrs. Russo is here? I had her brought over this morning. For Lila? Elena felt a rush of gratitude. Thank you. Dante nodded. We need to talk. About last night? About what happens next. Elena followed him to a small sitting room she'd never seen before. It was more casual than the others. Comfortable chairs and bookshelves, a place for actual conversation. Marco won't be bothering you anymore, Dante said without preamble. Elena's stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means he understands the consequences of threatening you. You didn't. Elena couldn't finish the sentence. Kill him? No. Dante's voice was flat. though he deserved it. Elena felt relief flood through her. So it's over? Marco is over, but there will be others. Others? I have enemies, Elena. By protecting you, I've made you a target. Elena sank into a chair. So this never ends. Not as long as you're connected to me. Then maybe I shouldn't be connected to you. Something shifted in Dante's expression. It's too late for that. Why? Because Marco will tell his friends that I protected you. That makes you valuable to them. Elena felt the walls closing in. So I'm trapped. You're protected, Dante corrected. There's a difference. I don't see one. Dante was quiet for a long moment. I had a family once, a wife and son. Elena's breath caught. She'd seen the photos. I thought I could protect them by keeping them separate from my business, by maintaining distance. Dante's voice was hollow. I was wrong. What happened? My enemies found them anyway, used them to get to me. Elena's heart clenched. I'm sorry. I won't make that mistake again. What mistake? Distance. Dante's eyes found hers. You're safer close to me than far away. Elena stared at his face. She saw pain there, old wounds that hadn't healed. How long? She asked. How long what? How long do we have to stay here? Until I eliminate the threat. All of it? All of it. Elena felt something break inside her chest. And if that never happens, then you make a new life here. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. You're asking me to give up everything. I'm asking you to choose Lila's safety over your pride. It's not about pride. Then what? Elena struggled to find words. It's about belonging somewhere, having a home that's really mine. This can be your home. As what? Your charity case? Dante's jaw tightened. As someone I care about. The admission hung between them. Elena stared at Dante's face, searching for deception. She found none. You don't know me, she said. I know enough. Like what? I know you'd rather clean toilets than take money you didn't earn. I know you'd die before you let anything happen to Lila. I know you're brave enough to face down a corrupt cop, but kind enough to worry about his safety. Elena's throat closed. Those aren't reasons to upend your life for someone. They are for me. Before Elena could respond, a small voice interrupted. Tia, Elena? Elena turned. Lila stood in the doorway, her face uncertain. Mrs. Rousseau is making pancakes. She says you should come eat. Elena's heart squeezed. Lila looked so small in the grand doorway, so lost. I'll be right there, baby. Lila nodded and scampered away. Elena started to follow, then stopped. Dante? Yes. Thank you for protecting her, for protecting me. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. Whether I stay or go, you saved us. That matters. Dante's eyes held hers. You're not going anywhere. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Elena left him sitting in the morning light, her mind spinning with questions she couldn't answer. In the kitchen, Lila sat at a massive marble island, carefully spreading butter on a pancake. Mrs. Rousseau bustled around, chatting in Spanish and making Lila giggle. It was almost normal, almost like a family breakfast. There you are, mija, Mrs. Rousseau said. Sit, sit. You're too skinny. Elena sat beside Lila and accepted a plate of pancakes. They were perfect, golden and fluffy and warm. These are good, Lila announced. Mrs. Rousseau makes the best pancakes, Elena agreed. Better than yours? Elena's eyes widened in mock offense. Much better than mine. Lila giggled. It was the first time Elena had heard that sound in weeks. Can we stay here forever? Lila asked. Elena's chest tightened. Why would you want to do that? Because it's pretty and safe, and Mrs. Rousseau makes good food. What about our apartment? Lila considered this seriously. We could visit it sometimes. Elena's throat closed out of the mouths of babes. We'll see, baby. But as Elena watched Lila eat her pancakes in the morning sunlight, she wondered if maybe Dante was right. Maybe their old life really was gone, and maybe that wasn't entirely a bad thing. 3 days passed in a strange routine. Elena helped Mrs. Russo with household tasks, more from habit than necessity. Lila explored the mansion's gardens with wide-eyed wonder, and Dante appeared and disappeared like a shadow, handling business Elena didn't want to understand. "You don't have to work here," Mrs. Romano said on the 4th morning. She found Elena polishing silver in the dining room. "I need to do something with my hands," Elena replied. "Sitting still makes me nervous." "Dante says you're an excellent housekeeper." Elena's cheeks warmed. "He's been talking about me." "More than talking." Mrs. Romano's smile was knowing. Watching, worrying, pacing his office when he thinks no one notices. Elena's heart skipped. "I don't understand why." "Don't you?" Before Elena could answer, Lila burst through the door. "Tia Elena, come see." Elena set down the polishing cloth. "What is it, baby?" "There's a man in the garden, a scary one." Elena's blood turned cold. She grabbed Lila's hand. "What kind of scary?" "Big and loud and angry." Mrs. Romano was already moving toward the window. Elena joined her, peering through the lace curtains. In the garden, 2 men faced each other near the fountain. Elena recognized Dante's tall frame immediately. The other man was shorter but broader, with graying hair and expensive clothes. Even through the glass, Elena could see the tension. "Who is that?" Elena asked. "Vincent Torrino," Mrs. Romano said grimly. "Dante's father-in-law." Elena's stomach clenched. "His dead wife's father?" "Yes, and he blames Dante for what happened to Isabella and little Marco." Elena watched the men argue. Dante's posture was rigid, controlled. The other man gestured wildly, his face red with anger. What does he want? The same thing he's wanted for 3 years. Revenge. Suddenly, Torrino pointed toward the house, toward the windows where Elena stood. Her breath caught. "He knows we're here," Elena whispered. "It appears so." Mrs. Romano's voice was calm, but Elena caught the worry underneath. Torrino shouted something Elena couldn't hear. Dante's hands clenched into fists. For a moment, Elena thought he might hit the older man. Instead, he turned and walked toward the house. "Take Lila upstairs," Mrs. Romano said quietly. "Now." Elena didn't argue. She scooped Lila up and headed for the stairs. Behind her, she heard the front door slam. In their room, Elena paced while Lila colored. Her mind raced with possibilities. None of them good. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Come in." Gio stepped inside. His usual calm demeanor was strained. "Boss wants to see you." Elena's heart hammered. "Is everything okay?" "We'll find out." Elena kissed Lila's forehead. "Stay here with Mrs. Russo, baby. I'll be back soon." She followed Gio to Dante's office. The door was heavy oak, carved with intricate designs. Gio knocked twice, then opened it. "Boss, Elena's here." Dante sat behind a massive desk, staring at papers he wasn't reading. He looked up when Elena entered. His face was stone. "Sit," he said. Elena sat in the leather chair across from his desk. The office smelled like old books and expensive whiskey. "Torrino knows you're here," Dante said without preamble. Elena's stomach dropped. "How?" "Marco told him, before I convinced Marco to leave town." "What does that mean for us?" "It means the situation has changed." Dante leaned back in his chair. "Torrino wants to hurt me any way he can. You and Lila are perfect targets." Elena felt sick. "So we brought more danger to your family." You didn't bring anything. I chose to protect you. And now you're paying for it. I always pay for my choices. Dante's voice was flat. The question is whether you're willing to let me. Elena frowned. What do you mean? Torrino made me an offer. He'll leave you alone if I hand you over to him. Elena's blood turned to ice. What? He thinks if he has leverage over me, he can control me. And you told him no? I told him to go to hell. Relief flooded through Elena. So what happens now? Now we prepare for war. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Elena stared at Dante's face, searching for some sign that he was exaggerating. She found none. What kind of war? The kind where people die. Elena's chest tightened. Because of me. Because of him. Dante's voice hardened. Torrino has been looking for an excuse to move against me for 3 years. You're just convenient. I don't want to be the reason people get hurt. Then you shouldn't have pressed that button. The blunt words hit Elena like a slap. You're right. I shouldn't have. Something flickered in Dante's eyes. Regret, maybe. Elena? No, you're absolutely right. Elena stood abruptly. I made a selfish choice, and now people are going to suffer for it. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? Elena's voice cracked. You just said I brought this on myself. Dante stood and moved around the desk. You asked for help. I gave it. Everything else is my choice. Your choice that puts your family in danger. My family can take care of itself. What about Lila? Can she take care of herself? Dante's jaw tightened. Nothing will happen to Lila. You can't promise that. I can and I do. Elena stared at his face. She saw determination there, and something deeper, something that looked almost like love. Why? She whispered. Why what? Why risk everything for us? Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw. Because when I see Lila's face, I see my son's. When I see your fear, I remember Isabella's. And I remember what it felt like to fail them. Elena's throat closed. We're not your family. No, but you could be. The admission hung between them. Elena felt her heart stop, then start again too fast. Dante... A sharp knock interrupted her. Gio entered without waiting for permission. Boss, we have a problem. Dante's attention snapped to his lieutenant. What kind of problem? Torrino's men. They're at the front gate. Elena felt the blood drain from her face. Dante moved to the window and looked out. His face hardened. How many? 6 cars, maybe 20 men. Armed? Definitely. Dante turned to Elena. Go to your room. Lock the door. Don't come out until I tell you. What about... I'll handle it. Elena wanted to argue, but the steel in Dante's voice brooked no disagreement. She nodded and headed for the door. Elena. She stopped, looked back. Whatever happens, stay with Lila. Don't let her see anything. Elena's chest clenched. What's going to happen? I don't know, but I won't let them take you. The promise in his voice made Elena's knees weak. She nodded and ran for the stairs. In their room, she found Lila and Mrs. Russo huddled together on the bed. Lila was crying. What's wrong, baby? There are scary men outside, Lila sobbed. They have guns. Elena's heart broke. She pulled Lila into her arms. It's okay. We're safe here. Are you sure? I'm sure. But even as Elena said it, she heard shouting from the garden, car doors slamming, the sound of men preparing for violence. Mrs. Russo pulled the curtains closed. Away from the windows, mija. They sat on the floor between the bed and the wall. Elena held Lila tight and tried not to think about what was happening downstairs. Voices echoed in the hallway. Running footsteps, the sound of doors slamming. I want to go home, Lila whispered. Elena's throat closed. I know, baby. I know. But she was beginning to understand that home might not exist anymore. The standoff lasted 3 hours. Elena heard fragments through the walls, shouting, engines revving, at one point a single gunshot that made her heart stop, but no invasion, no violence in the house itself. Finally, as the sun was setting, silence fell. Elena waited another hour before venturing to the window. The garden was empty. No cars, no men with guns, just Dante's security patrolling the grounds. A knock at the door made Elena jump. Come in. Dante entered, looking exhausted. His shirt was torn at the shoulder. There was a cut on his cheek. Is it over? Elena asked. For now. What happened? Torrino made his point. I made mine. Elena studied his face. What point did you make? That anyone who touches you dies. The words should have frightened Elena. Instead, she felt something warm unfurl in her chest. And his point? That he can reach you whenever he wants. Elena's brief moment of safety crumbled. So nothing's changed. Everything's changed. Dante sat heavily in the chair by the window. This is open war now. Because of me. Because of him. Elena left Lila sleeping on the bed and moved closer to Dante. In the lamplight, he looked older, worn down by years of violence and loss. Let me clean that cut, she said. Dante's eyes found hers. You don't need to. Yes, I do. Elena went to the bathroom and returned with a damp cloth. She knelt beside Dante's chair and gently cleaned the blood from his cheek. His skin was warm under her fingers, rough with stubble, human. Does it hurt? She asked. No. But Elena saw the pain in his eyes, not from the cut, from something deeper. Tell me about them, she said softly, your wife and son. Dante's breath caught. Why? Because I want to understand. Why you're doing this. Why you care. Dante was quiet for so long Elena thought he wouldn't answer. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. Isabella was everything good in my world, pure, kind. She made me want to be better than what I was. Elena's chest tightened. And your son? Marco. He was 5 when they died. Loved dinosaurs and bedtime stories. He had Isabella's laugh. How did they... Elena couldn't finish the question. Car bomb. Meant for me. Dante's hands clenched. They were coming to meet me for dinner. I was supposed to be in that car. Elena's heart broke. I'm sorry. I've spent 3 years trying to forget what it felt like. The guilt, the rage, the emptiness. And now? Dante's eyes found hers. Now I remember what it feels like to have something worth protecting. Elena's breath caught. Dante, I know you don't feel the same way. I know this isn't the life you wanted, but I can't let you go. Why not? Because I'm selfish and broken, and when I look at you and Lila, I see a chance to be whole again. Elena stared at his face. She saw honesty there, vulnerability, need. What if I can't be what you need? She whispered. Then I'll settle for keeping you safe. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. She reached out and touched Dante's cheek. His skin was warm and real and alive. I'm scared, she admitted. Of me? Of this. Of caring about you and losing you. You won't lose me. You can't promise that. I can try. Elena looked into his eyes. She saw a man who'd lost everything and was trying not to lose it again. A man who'd built walls around his heart and was asking her to tear them down. Okay, she whispered. Okay, what? Okay, I'll try too. Something shifted in Dante's expression. Hope, maybe, or relief. He reached up and covered Elena's hand with his own. Elena? A small voice interrupted them. Tia, Elena, I had a bad dream. Elena turned. Lila stood by the bed, rubbing her eyes. She looked so small and lost. Come here, baby. Lila padded over and climbed into Elena's lap. She looked at Dante with curious eyes. Are you hurt? Lila asked him. Just a little scratch, Dante said. Nothing to worry about. Lila studied his face seriously. My mama used to put Band-Aids on my scratches to make them better. Elena's throat closed. Lila rarely mentioned her mother. That sounds very smart, Dante said gently. Lila nodded. Then, to Elena's amazement, she slipped off Elena's lap and went to Dante. I'm sorry the bad men made you hurt, Lila said. Elena watched Dante's face transform. The hard lines softened. His eyes grew bright. Thank you, little one, he said. Lila surprised them both by climbing onto his lap. She curled up against his chest like she'd done it 100 times before. Can you tell me a story? She asked. Elena started to intervene. Lila, Mr. Romano is busy. I'd be honored, Dante said. Elena watched in amazement as this dangerous man became gentle. He stroked Lila's hair and spoke in a soft, warm voice. Once upon a time, there was a brave little girl who lived in a beautiful castle. As Dante spun his tale, Elena felt something break open in her chest. This wasn't just protection. This wasn't just duty. This was love, raw and real and terrifying. Elena looked at the two most important people in her world, the child who was her heart and the man who was becoming her soul, and made a choice. She was going to fight for this, whatever it cost, whatever it took. For the first time since pressing that button, Elena felt truly safe. Not because of the mansion's walls or Dante's guards, but because she was no longer alone. That night, Elena lay awake listening to Lila's soft breathing. The child had fallen asleep in Dante's arms, and he'd carried her to bed with infinite care. Elena tried to process everything that had happened. The confrontation with Torrino, Dante's confession, Lila's instant trust. Her old life felt like a dream now, distant and unreal. Around midnight, Elena heard footsteps in the hall. She slipped out of bed and crept to the door. Dante stood at the window at the end of the corridor. He'd changed into jeans and a sweater. His hair was mussed. He looked younger, more human. Elena opened her door softly. Can't sleep? He turned. Did I wake you? I was already awake. Elena stepped into the hallway. Thinking too much. About what? About how my life changed in 4 days. Dante's expression was unreadable. Regrets? Elena considered the question honestly. Some, but not the ones you might think. What kind of regrets? I regret that Lila had to see violence. I regret that your family is in danger because of us. Elena paused. But I don't regret pressing that button. Even though it complicated everything? Especially because it complicated everything. Dante moved closer. In the dim hallway, his eyes were dark and intense. Why? Elena searched for words. Because before, I was just surviving, going through motions, trying to hold on to something that was already broken. And now? Now I'm living, scared out of my mind, but living. Dante reached out and touched her face. His fingers were gentle against her skin. Elena, I know this is crazy, Elena whispered. I know we barely know each other. I know your world is dangerous and I should run as far as possible. But when I look at you, I see home. Not this house, not the safety. You. Dante's breath caught. You can't mean that. Why not? Because I'm not a good man. I've done things. I don't care what you've done. Elena stepped closer. I care who you are. With me. With Lila. This could all fall apart. Torrino won't give up. There will be more violence, more danger. Then we'll face it together. Dante stared at her face like he was memorizing it. You don't know what you're saying. Yes, I do. Elena reached up and covered his hand with hers. I'm saying yes to whatever this is between us. Yes to building something real. Yes to choosing love over fear. Elena. She silenced him by rising up on her toes and pressing her lips to his. The kiss was soft, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. Dante went rigid for a moment. Then his arms came around her, pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, became desperate, hungry. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Are you sure, Dante? Whispered against her forehead. I'm terrified, Elena admitted. But I'm sure. Dante held her close, and Elena felt his heart hammering against hers. I won't let anything happen to you. I know. To either of you. I know. They stood together in the moonlit hallway, holding on to each other in the promise of something beautiful and dangerous and real. Elena closed her eyes and let herself believe in happily ever after. Even in a world full of monsters, love could still win. It had to. Because the alternative was unthinkable. The attack came at dawn. Elena woke to the sound of breaking glass and shouting voices. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then Lila screamed, and Elena's blood turned to ice. She rolled out of bed and grabbed Lila, who was sitting up with tears streaming down her face. What's happening? Lila sobbed. I don't know, baby, but we're going to be okay. Elena carried Lila to the window and peered through the curtains. Men in dark clothes swarmed the garden. She counted at least a dozen, all armed. Her hand shook as she reached for the panic button Dante had given her. She pressed it 3 times, the signal for emergency. Footsteps thundered in the hallway. Elena's door burst open. Time to go, Gio said. His face was grim. Now. Where's Dante? Elena asked. Handling the situation. Move. Elena grabbed the bag she kept packed and followed Gio into the hall. Mrs. Russo appeared with a robe over her nightgown. This way, Gio said, leading them toward the back stairs. They made it halfway down before gunshots erupted from the front of the house. Lila buried her face in Elena's shoulder. Safe room, Gio ordered. The safe room was hidden behind a bookshelf in Dante's office. Elena had never seen it before. Inside was a small space with monitors showing every angle of the house and grounds. Mrs. Russo gathered Lila into her arms while Elena watched the screens. Dante's men were fighting back, but they were outnumbered. Where's Dante? Elena asked Gio. North Wing. He'll meet us here. But minutes passed without any sign of him. The gunfire grew more intense. On the monitors, Elena saw more men scaling the walls. There are too many of them, she whispered. Gio's jaw tightened. Boss knew this was coming. What do you mean? Torrino's been planning this for weeks. Boss has contingencies. What kind of contingencies? Before Gio could answer, an explosion rocked the house. The lights flickered. Lila started crying again. Elena felt sick. We have to help him. We help him by staying alive, Gio said. On the monitors, Elena saw a figure moving through the smoke. Tall, purposeful, deadly. Dante. He was fighting his way toward the office. 3 men tried to stop him. Elena watched in horrified fascination as Dante took them down with efficient brutality. He's coming, Gio said. Elena's heart hammered as she watched Dante reach the office. He moved to the bookshelf and input a code. The hidden door opened. Everyone okay? Dante asked as he entered. His shirt was torn and bloody. There was smoke in his hair, but his eyes were clear and determined. We're fine, Elena said. What about not now? Dante moved to a wall panel and opened it. Inside were weapons. Lots of them. Gio, take them to the tunnels. Tunnels? Elena asked. Underground passages, Dante explained, loading a gun. They lead to the garage. Cars are waiting. What about you? I'm staying. Elena's blood turned cold. No. This is my house. My family. I don't run. You'll die. Maybe. But you and Lila will live. Elena grabbed his arm. Don't do this. Come with us. Dante's eyes softened. I can't. Someone has to slow them down. Send your men. You come with us. My men are already dying for me. I won't hide while they fall. Elena felt tears burn her eyes. Please. Dante cupped her face in his hands. Take care of Lila. Give her the life she deserves. I want to give it to her with you. That's not possible anymore. Another explosion shook the house. Closer this time. Go, Dante said. Gio opened another panel, revealing a narrow staircase. This way. Elena didn't move. She stared at Dante's face, memorizing every line. I love you. The words hung in the air between them. Dante's breath caught. Elena, I needed you to know. Dante kissed her then, hard and desperate and final. When he pulled away, his eyes were bright. I love you too, he whispered. Both of you. Then he pushed her toward the stairs. Go, now. Elena's heart broke as she followed Gio into the darkness. Behind her, she heard Dante checking his weapons, preparing to die. The tunnels were narrow and damp. Elena carried Lila, while Mrs. Russo followed behind. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls. How far? Elena asked Gio. 1/4 mile. The garage is outside the main perimeter. They moved as quickly as they could. Above them, the house shook with explosions and gunfire. Elena tried not to think about Dante facing all that alone. The tunnel ended at a heavy steel door. Gio input another code and the door opened. They emerged in a 3-car garage. 2 black SUVs waited with engines running. More of Dante's men stood guard. Get in, Gio ordered. Elena hesitated. We can't just leave him. We can and we will. Boss's orders. He could be dying up there. He knew that when he stayed. Elena felt rage and grief war in her chest. This is wrong. This is survival. Gio bundled Elena and Lila into the first SUV. Mrs. Russo climbed in beside them. The doors slammed shut. Through the windows, Elena could see smoke rising from the mansion. Her heart clenched. Everything beautiful in her life was burning. The SUVs pulled out of the garage and onto a dirt road Elena had never seen before. They drove through dark woods, headlights cutting through the pre-dawn gloom. Where are we going? Elena asked. Safe house, Gio said from the front seat, 3 hours north. Elena looked back at the burning sky behind them. What if he survives? He'll find us. And if he doesn't? Gio's face was grim. Then we figure out what's next. Elena held Lila close and tried not to cry. The little girl had finally stopped sobbing, but she clung to Elena with desperate strength. Is Papa Dante going to be okay? Lila asked. Elena's throat closed. When had Lila started calling him Papa? I hope so, baby. I really hope so. But hope felt fragile in the face of so much violence and loss. The safe house was a modest cabin on a lake surrounded by pine trees. Nothing like the mansion's grandeur, just basic furniture and functional rooms. Elena sat on the porch as the sun rose, watching the water and trying not to think about Dante. Inside, Mrs. Russo was making breakfast for Lila. Gio emerged from the cabin with a satellite phone pressed to his ear. Elena couldn't hear his words, but his expression was tense. When he hung up, Elena asked, Any word? House is gone, completely destroyed. Elena's heart stopped. And Dante? No confirmation either way. What does that mean? It means we wait. Elena felt rage boil up in her chest. How can you be so calm about this? He's your boss, your friend. He's also the strongest man I know, Gio said quietly. If anyone could survive that hell, it's him. But you don't know. No, I don't know. Elena wanted to scream, to throw things, to rage against the unfairness of finding love only to lose it. Instead, she went inside to check on Lila. The little girl was coloring at the kitchen table, her tongue poking out in concentration. She looked so normal, so innocent. What are you drawing, baby? Our house, Lila said. With Papa Dante? Elena's chest tightened. The drawing showed 3 stick figures holding hands in front of a large house. A family. It's beautiful, Elena said. When is Papa Dante coming? Elena's throat closed. I don't know. But he is coming, right? Elena wanted to promise, to give Lila the certainty she craved, but she couldn't lie. I hope so, Elena said. Lila studied Elena's face with those 2 serious eyes. You're sad. A little. Because of the bad men? Because Papa Dante might be hurt. Lila nodded solemnly. But he's strong. He'll be okay. Elena wished she had a child's faith. How do you know? Because he promised to protect us, and Papa Dante keeps his promises. Elena's heart broke all over again. Yes, he does. The day crawled by with no news. Elena paced the cabin like a caged animal. She tried to read, to help Mrs. Russo with chores, to focus on Lila. Nothing worked. By evening, she was ready to steal a car and drive back to the city herself. That's when the phone rang. Gio answered immediately. Yeah? Elena held her breath, watching his face for any sign of hope. When? Gio asked. How bad? Elena's heart hammered. Someone was alive? But who? We'll be there in 3 hours, Gio said. He hung up and turned to Elena. His expression was unreadable. Well? Elena demanded. He's alive. Elena's knees went weak. How bad? Bad enough, but alive. Where? Private hospital, 20 minutes from the city. Elena was already moving toward the bedroom. We need to go, now. Elena, don't try to stop me. He's unconscious, critical condition. You won't even be able to see him. Elena spun around. I don't care. I need to be there. Gio studied her face. Whatever he saw there made him nod. 30 minutes. Pack light. The drive to the hospital felt eternal. Elena held Lila, who slept fitfully in her arms. Mrs. Russo prayed quietly in Spanish. Gio made phone calls, coordinating security and medical care. Elena stared out the window and tried to prepare herself for whatever she might find. Dante could be broken, burned, barely alive. But he was alive. That was what mattered. The hospital was small and discreet, the kind of place where powerful people went when they couldn't use public facilities. Gio spoke to the desk nurse while Elena waited with Lila. He's in surgery, Gio reported, has been for 6 hours. Elena felt sick. How bad? Broken ribs, collapsed lung, 2nd-degree burns on his arms and back. But he'll live? Doctor thinks so, but it'll be a long recovery. Elena nodded. She could handle a long recovery. She could handle anything as long as Dante survived. They waited in a private room on the top floor. Lila curled up on a couch with Mrs. Russo. Elena paced by the windows, watching the sun set over the city. Around midnight, a doctor appeared. He looked tired, but not devastated. Mr. Romano is stable, he said. The surgery went well. He's in recovery now. Elena's legs nearly gave out. Can I see him? Not tonight, but tomorrow perhaps. Elena wanted to argue, but she knew better. Thank you. After the doctor left, Elena collapsed into a chair. The adrenaline that had sustained her finally faded, leaving her exhausted. Get some rest, Gio said. I'll take first watch. Elena closed her eyes but couldn't sleep. Images flashed through her mind. Dante's last kiss, the sound of explosions, the look in his eyes when he said he loved her. She'd almost lost him before she really had him, but he was alive, hurt but alive, and she was never letting him go again. Elena waited 3 days before the doctors allowed her to see Dante. Those 72 hours felt like 72 years. When she finally entered his room, Elena's heart nearly stopped. Dante lay unconscious in the hospital bed, looking smaller than she'd ever seen him. Bandages covered his arms and chest. Tubes and wires connected him to various machines, but his face was peaceful, and the monitors showed steady heartbeats and breathing. Elena pulled a chair close to the bed and took his hand. His fingers were warm, real, alive. "I'm here," she whispered. "Lila and I are both here. We're safe." Dante didn't respond, but Elena thought his fingers twitched. She talked to him for hours about Lila's drawings, about Mrs. Russo's cooking, about the lake at the safe house and how much he would like it. She didn't talk about the fear, about the 3 days of not knowing, about the way her world had nearly ended in that burning mansion. Instead, she talked about the future, about the life they would build together, about teaching Lila to swim and taking family vacations and growing old together. "You have to wake up," Elena whispered, "because Lila needs her papa, Dante, and I need the man I love." That evening, as Elena was getting ready to leave, Dante's eyes fluttered open. "Elena." His voice was barely a whisper. Elena's heart soared. "I'm here." Dante's eyes found hers. They were cloudy with pain medication, but alert. "Lila?" "Safe. We're all safe." Dante's shoulders relaxed. "Good. How do you feel?" "Like I got blown up." Elena laughed through her tears. "That's because you did, you stubborn man." Had to keep you safe." "Well, mission accomplished. Torrino's dead. His men scattered. It's over." Dante's eyes searched hers. "Really over?" "Really over." Dante squeezed her hand weakly. "Then marry me." Elena's breath caught. "What?" "Marry me. Build a life with me. Let me be Lila's father." Elena stared at his face. He was serious. Even drugged and broken, he was serious. "Dante, I know it's crazy. I know we've only known each other a few weeks, but I can't imagine my life without you anymore." Elena's throat closed. "You almost didn't have a life at all." "But I do, because of you, because having something worth living for made me fight harder." Elena touched his cheek gently. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Elena looked into his eyes and saw her future. Not the life she'd planned, but the life she wanted. Dangerous and beautiful and real. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll build a life with you. Yes to all of it." Dante smiled then. The first real smile Elena had seen from him. It transformed his whole face. "I love you," he said. "I love you too." Elena leaned down and kissed him softly. When she pulled away, Dante's eyes were bright with tears. "We're going to be a family," he said. "We already are." And Elena knew it was true. They'd been a family since the moment she pressed that button. Since the moment Dante chose to protect her. Since the moment Lila called him Papa. Love had found them in the most unlikely place, in violence and fear and danger. But it was real, and it was theirs, and nothing would ever tear it apart again. 6 months later, Elena stood in the kitchen of their new house, watching the morning sun stream through clean windows. Not a mansion this time, a real home. Big enough for a family, but warm and welcoming. Lila sat at the breakfast table chattering about her upcoming school play. Her voice filled the kitchen with joy and life. The silence that had defined her for so long was completely gone. "Mama Elena," Lila said, "will Papa Dante be able to come to my play?" Elena's heart squeezed at the title. It had happened naturally over the months. Elena was Mama now, not Tia. And Dante was Papa. "I think so, baby. His arm is much better now." "Good, because I have a big part. I'm a tree." Elena smiled. The most beautiful tree in the forest. Footsteps on the stairs announced Dante's arrival. Elena turned to watch him enter the kitchen. His left arm was still weak from the injuries, but he was healing, getting stronger every day. "Morning, beautiful," he said, kissing Elena's cheek. "Morning, Papa Dante." Lila launched herself into his arms. Dante caught her easily, spinning her around until she giggled. "How's my favorite girl this morning?" "I'm excited about my play." "Are you coming?" "Wouldn't miss it." Elena watched them together and felt her chest swell with happiness. This was what she'd dreamed of during those dark days in the hospital. Family breakfasts and school plays and ordinary magic. Dante set Lila down and moved to Elena. "How are you feeling?" "Good. Better than good." "Any morning sickness?" Elena's hand moved instinctively to her still flat stomach. "Not today." They'd found out about the pregnancy 2 weeks ago, another surprise in a life full of them. But this time, the surprise was purely joyful. "I can't wait to meet him or her," Dante said softly. "What if it's twins?" "Then we'll need a bigger breakfast table." Elena laughed. "Mrs. Russo will be thrilled. More babies to spoil." Mrs. Russo had moved into the guest house behind their home. She claimed it was to help with Lila, but Elena knew she just wanted to be part of their chosen family. "Have I mentioned lately that I love you?" Dante asked. "Only every day." "Good. I plan to keep it up for the next 50 years. Elena looked at her husband's face. The scars from the explosion had faded, but not disappeared. She loved them because they reminded her how close she'd come to losing him. "Only 50 years? Okay, 60, but that's my final offer." Elena laughed and kissed him. Around them, their kitchen hummed with warmth and life and love. "Ew, kissing," Lila said, but she was smiling. "Get used to it, little one," Dante said. "Your parents are very much in love." Parents. The word still took Elena's breath away. They were parents, a family, real and forever and safe. Dante's phone buzzed with a text. Elena tensed automatically, but Dante just glanced at it and put it away. "Business?" Elena asked. "Geo checking in. Everything's quiet." Elena nodded. Dante still had business interests, but nothing like before. Nothing that brought danger to their door. He'd stepped back from the dark parts of his world to focus on the light. "So what's the plan for today?" Elena asked. "Lila has school. You have your doctor's appointment. I have a very important meeting with our contractor about the nursery." Elena smiled. Everything was planned and peaceful and wonderfully ordinary. "And tonight?" "Tonight we have dinner as a family. We help Lila with homework. We tuck her in and read stories. Then we sit on our porch and count stars." "That sounds perfect." "It is perfect." Elena looked around their kitchen, at Lila coloring while she ate cereal, at Dante reading the newspaper and stealing glances at Elena, at Mrs. Russo bustling in from the garden with fresh herbs. This was everything she'd never dared to dream of, safety and love and belonging and home. "Hey, Dante," Elena said. "Yeah? Thank you." "For what?" "For saving us, for loving us, for giving us this life." Dante's eyes found hers across the kitchen. "Thank you for pressing that button." Elena smiled. "Best decision I ever made." "Second best," Dante corrected. "What was the first?" "Saying yes when I asked you to marry me." Elena's heart swelled. "I love you, Dante Romano." "I love you too, Elena Romano." They looked at each other across their breakfast table, surrounded by family and sunlight and endless possibilities. Elena had spent years just surviving. Now she was living, really truly living, and it was beautiful. She looked at him. He smiled. They were finally home.